Welcome to the Align and Abide podcast with Dr. Kim Tran, where we help you achieve your greatest God-given potential. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran, and this is the Align and Abide podcast, where we explore ways to elevate your health and life. Now, we are sponsored by Minnesota Family Chiropractic, a Christian chiropractic and integrative health clinic founded and led by Dr. Kim Tran. Our team of doctors puts in a wide variety of things because we truly believe that when we put God into your healing, we can heal any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual problem. That's why we offer corrective chiropractic, acupuncture, functional medicine, nutrition, and inner healing prayer. If you're looking to transform your life and health, give us a call today at 612-545-5672 or find us online at drkimtran.com. That's drkimtran.com. Now, this past weekend, we were so blessed to be out at the Edina Art Fair as sponsors, and it's great partnering with 50th in France to be able to reach so many adults and children and answer questions and support our community. And for many of you, and I'm going to share with you some of the major questions that actually came up over the weekend, especially dealing with kids and also prenatal pregnancy, because many times we start to believe that the things that we're seeing with our kids are just normal. We start thinking that since ADHD and autism is so popular, chances are that maybe our kids have it when maybe they're just have some pent up energy, or maybe their brains are overstimulated. And I'm going to share with you things that, were a big concern for a lot of the parents out there, and that are probably a big concern as parents and grandparents. You're seeing your kids, you want them to be as healthy as possible. And how do you start that? Now, first and foremost, I have a lot of parents who come into my office because they want to have children. They are preparing to have their children. And even yesterday, I had a new patient who came in. She is married to her husband. It's been 7 months. And she's like, Doc, one of the biggest things that we want to do is be healthy to carry naturally for an entire labor and prepare to be pregnant. And I said, absolutely. Like, this is so important as to why we want to incorporate chiropractic into your care, because as we know, God created your body with your skull and your spine to protect it in case your brain and nervous system, which, as many of you know, control everything in your entire body. So everything needs to function from your brain down your spinal cord and out every single nerve in your body. And this is how your cells, tissues, muscle, organs all respond. And that's how your body responds. And this is important. So chiropractic is such a vital part for both men and women who are preparing to have children. And I was sharing with her the story of one of my patients, Jason, who came. I met him when I was at the Egan Fun Fest back in 2019. And so he came in with a patient, and one of his biggest goals was to make sure he was going to be ready to be a healthy father. Now, him and his wife had been together. They hadn't had any kids yet. And over the last 7 years, I have been so blessed to watch him become a father to 2 little girls. And I know that chiropractic allowed him to do that because many times he didn't believe that he should just take care of himself when he was in pain, but he started to understand is that, yes, less than 10% of your nerves go to pain, but he wanted his body healthy and functioning. And so every single time he was getting adjusted, it allowed everything in his body to heal and to function well, which allowed him to not only help produce a baby, but also to be a great father who is active and healthy with his kids. And so over the process, I was telling her it's such an amazing thing, because when this new patient comes in and she tells me the same thing, I just get so excited that parents are taking their health seriously. And this is important. Many times in our society, we think that, well, only the mother needs to be healthy. But the reality is both the father and mother of your future kids or your own children or babies that you're trying to have, they need to be very healthy to conceive. And this comes from not just doing chiropractic care. And I look at chiropractic care as you go through and you brush your teeth every day, you eat healthy, you exercise. Chiropractic is just part of your normal maintenance in order to heal over your body. And I'm going to tell you this, there is nothing that is going to replace chiropractic. No matter what happens, it is just something that you just do on a regular basis to keep you healthy and well for the rest of your life. Now, as parents who may be expecting, or perhaps you're a grandparent who wants to help your children be healthy, here's one of my other big tips, is that you want to let them know you have to eat primarily God-made foods and not man-made foods. Now, what I have found, there's all these crazy diets that you hear, whether it's the keto diet, the carnivore diet, paleo diet, the Atkins diet, and you hear all these things, but if we take it down to the most simple fact, it really is about eating God-made foods. And I have found with this simple standard where I tell my patients, look, if you eat 80% God-made foods, you're going to reverse any type of disease in your body. You're actually going to heal. And that's really about focusing on eating fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, good fats such as avocado, coconut, nuts and seeds. And if you focus 80% of your diet on that, now that other 20%, that can include any type of bread, sugar, those other carbs that, you might be exposed to, including dairy. But think about this. If you go through and you start to change over your diet, you're going to allow your body to be healthy and produce new cells. Because at this point, your body is either regenerating or degenerating. And every single day, your body is reproducing new cells in order for your body to heal and function. So it's going to take in whatever you consume. So if you're consuming a bunch of processed foods, your body has no nutrients. It doesn't have the right things it needs to develop healthy cells. Whereas if you eat God-made foods, so the fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, good fats, then your body can actually recreate healthy cells. And this is important. Now, the other aspect that I always tell my couples who are planning on getting pregnant is they need to incorporate exercise daily, and you have to find what's going to work best for you. I do recommend that you include in some cardio exercise, whether that is walking, running, riding your bike. Weight training is so vital and important. We actually know that the amount of muscle that you have on your body is actually a reflection of how long you will live. So the more muscle mass you have, the longer your longevity. In addition, it is important to stretch your muscles and stay mobile. So including mobility exercises is also key when you're going through all this. So between the combination of chiropractic, going through and eating well, along with exercising, you're going to prepare your body to have a healthy baby. And if you're looking for more information on how you can help to prepare yourself and your husband for having more kids or to having your first child, you can reach out at drkimtran.com. That's drkimtran.com. And you can find me at Minnesota Family Chiropractic in Richfield, right off 494 and 35W. Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran with Minnesota Family Chiropractic, and we're back talking about how do you best prepare for having children, going through pregnancy and labor, and also how do you get your kids as healthy as possible. And really that starts before conception. And this is really speaking out to give some hope for the couples out there that are struggling with infertility. They're struggling to get pregnant. And I'm going to share a couple major stories of what has happened because I want to give you some miraculous stories to be able to find out. Now, first and foremost, there's Jackie. And Jackie was one of my chiropractic assistants. Her and her husband had been struggling for years to get pregnant. She had been trying. Nothing was successful. But here's a couple of the major symptoms. One that we look at. Does somebody have any digestive issues going on? Do they have hormonal imbalances? And most importantly, how do their x-rays look? And you're thinking, okay, well, what do my x-rays have to do with my fertility? Now, as we had already talked about, God made your body that your skull and your spine protect in case your brain and nervous system, which, as we talk about, controls everything in your body. So from the front, we want to see your spine straight up and down. And from the side, we want to see 3 proper curves. And this is why, as corrective chiropractors, we take a look at your x-rays in order to see what we can do to correct the problem. So think about this. The same nerves that go down to the low back and pelvic area which can cause problems in the low back, they can cause pain down into your legs, also affect your digestive organs and sex organs. So is it not uncommon that a man who has low back issues now all of a sudden will have problems with erectile dysfunction? And mind you, this is a very, very common thing. So many of my younger men who are in their 20s and 30s, they're dealing with low testosterone. They're dealing with erectile dysfunction. And of course, as their doctor, I'm always asking them, well, are you having these issues? Because this is a very common complaint with anyone who's had low back issues or long-term sciatica issues that they haven't fully addressed or haven't healed completely. And think about that. So if men are dealing with that, it is going to be very difficult or more difficult to help your wife get pregnant. Secondly, when we look at women like Jackie, the same nerves. And so when we were looking where her low back should have been straight, she had a massive curve to the left side of her body. So that was pushing down and compressing the nerves that were affecting organ function to her uterus, to her ovaries. So is it not a surprise that she was having difficulty getting pregnant? And also having digestive issues. And so what we did is we actually put her on a plan to heal over her gut. Because in addition to her digestive problems, she would sometimes deal with anxiety, depression. And here's why this happens. It's not uncommon with people with digestive issues to then also have anxiety, depression, because 90% of your serotonin, your happy, feel-good neurotransmitter, is produced in your digestive tract. So if your digestive system is not working well, of course, you're not going to be able to produce the neurotransmitters that you need to be healthy, functioning, and to feel balanced in your life. So when it comes down to this is what we did. We actually put her on a gut repair program. And what this did was help to rebalance out anything that was out of balance as far as her bacteria, fungi, parasites, anything else that was happening in her digestive tract. And this is important. So if you've been struggling with digestive problems and also struggling with menstrual issues, PMS issues, wondering where your hormones are, we have to get down to the result of dealing with a digestive issue, first and foremost. So as she started to heal over that, she started finding that she could eat better. Because this is important. Because if you have digestive issues, which means you're not absorbing your nutrients properly, you're also then not able to produce the proper hormones your body needs to have a baby. Now, sometimes we're going through, the medical side and they're like, you must be low on hormones. So why don't we just throw some birth control at you? So instead we're getting our hormones that are already out of dysfunction into more dysfunction instead of saying, okay, what is the root cause of this? So as she changed over her diet, she's on all of these other supplements to help heal her gut. It allowed her body to now produce hormones and her cycles regulated back. And this is important. Your cycles as a woman need to be consistent and regular for your body to produce eggs. Now, the other thing that needs to happen is that when you have your cycles, they shouldn't be painful. Now, many times people will say with PMS, oh, it's just normal. It's fine, because you hear all these commercials. Yeah, you're supposed to have cramping, bloating. You're supposed to be emotional. And I tell people this all the time. That is a lie. Why would God develop something in your body that would be painful, discomforting, that you feel like you would need to be locked up at home for a week? That doesn't make any sense. In a normal, healthy, balanced woman's body, you should be able to go through your cycle and just bleed through the week and then move on. You should still be able to stay active, healthy. You might change up a little bit, but you should be able to say, I don't have any cramping. I don't have any back pain. It's just your body going through your normal cycle. That is a normal, healthy cycle. That is stating that your hormones are also balanced, that your nerve function going through those organs are functioning normally. Now, think about this. A study by the University of Colorado showed that when a joint moves out of place by just a couple millimeters. So a vertebral joint that moves out of place in your spine by just a couple millimeters is enough to shut down end organ function by over 40 to 60%. So what that can look like for a woman, meaning that they're not producing the right hormones, that their periods are off, that their cycles are off. Same thing for man. That same nerve compression can cause low testosterone, prostate issues. It can cause erectile dysfunction. So those things combined are not a great place for a couple that is trying to get pregnant. So with Jackie, we were working on her digestive problems. We were also fixing her anxiety at the same time, which was a pleasant thing for her. In addition, we were taking care of her low back pain. So every time she would come in with adjustments, and she is a believer, and we are also doing one other thing that many other practices will tell you they're not going to do. But I was actually praying over her and her future baby every single time I laid hands on her. And she knew that. I was praying for God to prepare her body for the baby that we knew was coming. And of course, she started having some nausea. She started feeling a little like, ooh, she wasn't feeling so great. Well, turns out I knew the exact signs because I have seen it before my women even tell me. And I knew she was pregnant. And 9 months later, I am so blessed that I was able to go in with Jackie to the hospital. And I was not only to see her, but to see her baby at 4 hours old. And her baby had his first adjustment at 4 hours old. So when we talk about the safety of chiropractic, understand that if a baby can be adjusted at just 4 hours old, then at any age, chiropractic is safe. It is safe, it's effective. It allows a baby, because many of you who've had children understand that you have to squeeze your baby out of a very small area. And that's how God designed it for so many reasons, that a baby could travel through the vaginal canal for birth. And what that does is, this is so amazing. That squeeze and push on that baby allows the baby's lungs and heart to function properly. Could you imagine that when a woman is in labor, this is something so phenomenal. Like, you're thinking that, when they're going through having these contractions causing that push, right? So when women are encouraged to push, it actually is God's way of helping to regulate the breathing and heart rate of a baby on the way out, which is phenomenal. Like, we think about that in CPR, where if somebody's heart stops working and they're not breathing, what do? We apply compression on the sternum to get blood pumping back to the heart and get oxygen moving back into the lungs. So how amazing is it that God designed a woman's body to go through contractions, to go through labor in order to put compression on the baby's lungs and hearts to get it to regulate properly on the way out, which is amazing. Now, the other side of that is with a vaginal birth, a baby is able to go through and it picks up part of its mother's immune system, which is amazing. So think about this. The immune system gets delivered to the baby on the way out of the womb, which is phenomenal. Like, how, if you think about that, only God could design that to happen. And if you're a woman and a man out there and you've been struggling to get pregnant, maybe you've been dealing with miscarriages, I just completely recommend come into our office. Let's see what we can do between chiropractic, acupuncture, functional medicine. You know, God wants your body to be healed, because if He has given you a vision to have a baby, I will promise you He is delivering on that promise. And you can find out more at drkimtran.com. Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran with Minnesota Family Chiropractic, located in Richfield off 494 and 35W. If you've been looking to transform your health and life, give us a call today at 612-545-5672. You can also find us online at drkimtran.com. And if you are a parent out there, and many of you know we've been talking about kids, how to prepare for pregnancy, and if you've been struggling with infertility, or perhaps you've been struggling with miscarriages, perhaps God has already delivered maybe a child to you and you're like, okay, great, we have this baby. And you hear God saying, I have another baby ready for you. You see the vision, you want it for yourself. And I want you to understand this. It's just like with Hannah in the Bible, when she knew what God promised her, she knew that God promised her a baby, and she kept praying to God over and over again, crying out to God for Him to deliver this baby. And I want to share this special message with you, because for those of you who maybe have had a baby, but maybe you're struggling to conceive another one, you've been dealing with some miscarriages, one of the most miraculous things that God wants you to know is, if you see that promise, you've seen the vision of the baby, if you want that baby, God is going to deliver on that promise. Now, here's what I want you to stop believing. And just like my couple that was struggling, they had their first son and they loved him, but they wanted another one. Yet, here they are in their 40s. Now, mind you, in that world, they're considered geriatric. Okay, first of all, you need to rebuke that as a lie. Oh, sorry, you're going to be a geriatric patient. That chances are you're probably not going to have a kid. We can look at instances over and over again in the Bible where women and men had children in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even up higher. And we know that with Sarah in the Bible. So if God gives you a vision, how does He not make your body in a way that allows you to have a child? And I was talking to a father that he was like, well, we know that we've been praying on another child, but my wife's struggling with miscarriages. And I asked him this simple question when he was in for his adjustment. I said, have you been praying together? And he's like, no, she's been praying, I've been praying. But this is what God wants you to do. If you've been struggling to conceive, you've been struggling with infertility, God wants you to come together as a husband and wife and pray with Him every single day over this baby that he has given you a vision of. Because if he is giving you the vision, he is going to go through with that promise. And they had told me they were preparing because they'd went through, seen the fertility doctor. They were ready to go through. They had embryos set aside. And he's like, well, these embryos from our 20s, that must be a lot better. And I said, how would you, and I want you to break these lies that you've been telling yourself. So maybe you've been preparing for IVF and you thought, oh yeah, our the embryos, right? These things that we prepared in our 20s have to be way better than in our 40s. That's not how God designed your body. He didn't say, well, yeah, it's definitely in your 20s. That's amazing. But oh, forget it. Once you get into your 30s or 40s, forget about it. That is not how God designed it, because we're taking out the fact that when God wants something to happen, he is a God of suddenlies. And so him and his wife had been preparing to have IVF when we had this conversation. And I said, and I'm saying the same thing to you because this is the message that God wants you to hear. If it is God's plan and vision, you do not need IVF. When it is God's plan for you and he's giving you the vision, he's going to follow through on that promise. But you need to come together and start praying together every single day over everything that may be blocking you, any thoughts that you may be saying to yourselves that is blocking you from getting pregnant. In addition, you need to start praying for God to deliver this baby to you. And right when they were ready to go through and get IVF, his wife got pregnant. She didn't go through IVF. They had been praying together every single night for this baby. In addition, he knew that I was praying over him every single time he came in for an adjustment, that we as a team were praying over him and his wife to prepare for this baby. And on March 6th of this year, they had their second boy. And only God could deliver on such a miracle. But part of what you need to do sometimes, or not just sometimes, part of what you need to do is you've got to trust God when he gives you a promise. And yes, maybe you've been waiting, and I understand that you're waiting for the husband and wife that God has promised you to be delivered, and he's going to do that. It's something I have to remind myself of, that I'm still waiting on my husband to be delivered by God, but I know that God has promised me this. Same thing that I know that God has promised me to not just have a husband, but to have a family, to have children of my own. And so when God promises, he will deliver. And what you need to be aware of is watch the things that people say and rebuke them as soon as you hear it. Perhaps you heard you're too old, or you're too this, you're whatever that may be. You need to rebuke those as lies, because God knows the truth. If he is giving you a vision, he will deliver on that promise, just like he did with this other couple when they had their baby on March 6th, which was a miracle baby. And what I love to hear about it is, one, they knew that if they did the same thing, they prayed together, that they had the people closest to them also pray for them and pray over this baby, that they knew that they could have a third child. They had such strong faith and conviction. And what I love seeing about this couple is that their faith in God grew. And that's what I want for each and every one of you, is that I want your faith in God to grow in the miracles in store, because the miracles that I'm sharing with you, with Jackie, with this couple, with all of my other couples that have gotten pregnant and had babies that God promised them, he is doing the same thing for you. But I think the hard part is we think we go through women's groups and women should just pray together. No, if we are having a small group of women who are struggling with their infertility and praying over the babies, those should be married couple groups coming together in prayer. This is not a men's small group. This is not a women's small group. It is a men and small. This should be men and women together, married couples together, having small groups, praying together in conjunction, because when two or more people come together in prayer, miracles happen. So imagine these small groups that have been meeting up individually, talking about their concerns. Now, as married couples, there should be small groups coming together in prayer over your infertility, coming against and rebuking infertility, rebuking miscarriages, and allowing God to deliver the babies that He has promised. And God wants you to grow your faith within Him. Yeah, and this is so important, so important. So really take this away, that even as married couples, you both need to be coming together every day in prayer. Because at the end of your marriage, when you made that covenant in front of God, it should look like this, right? Husband, wife, God, right there in the middle. And that is going to change your relationship. And I know many of you, your marriages are under attack right now. And you're thinking it is so easy because the enemy is talking in ears. He is talking and whispering. He is trying to destroy marriages. He uses financial issues. He uses social issues. He uses these thoughts that keep weeding into you, instead of both of you coming together with God at the center of your marriage, because that is the covenant you made. This is not, let me drag my husband along with me to God. This is not a husband dragging his wife along. You are supposed to walk equally yoked. Equally yoked is so important. And when we look at the yoke, it's like the yoke of a cart. If those wheels are misaligned, the cart's not going to go where it needs to go. But when that yoke of a cart, just like you should be equally yoked with your partner and your wife or your husband, when you both come together and you're both leading in the right direction towards God, God is going to redeem. He's going to restore your marriage. Even if you're going through separation or divorce, He is redeeming and restoring marriages tenfold. And I know that this promise is true because I've heard it over and over again, that God is redeeming and restoring marriages, but you both need to come together in prayer and put your marriage up before God and start praying with your spouse every single day. And if you are looking to transform your life, your health, your marriage, perhaps you're preparing for this family that God has promised, reach out at drkimtran.com. That's drkimtran.com. Hey, it's Dr. Kim Tran, and I am back talking to you about how do you best prepare to not only have a child, prepare for pregnancy, but most importantly, take care of your kids in a natural way. And I met with so many parents this weekend at the Edina Art Fair, and I knew this is such a God thing because God really puts us in a position where we're supposed to go out and do ministry. And I truly believe when we're out meeting people, sponsoring art fairs, we're out doing ministry to our community, because I know many parents are out there struggling with their own kids. And they're wondering, is this what's normal? When I hear the words of anxiety, ADHD, when I hear children that can't even get out of their beds or their rooms, or they are stuck and not even going to school, or they're not out living their best lives, seeing so many other people, it's heartbreaking, because I know that's not how God designed their lifestyles to be. And if you are a parent that's listening or a grandparent that's listening, and you're noticing things that don't make sense, I want you to just break the lie that all the kids have ADHD, that they all have anxiety, that they can't pay attention, that it's normal for them to bedwet, it's normal for them to have all these things. Those are not common. It's not common for kids to be clumsy. It's not common for kids to have bedwetting. It's not common for them to have anger issues, to have anxiety, to have ADHD, to not be able to function. And it's not normal for any child to be on many, many medications or have seizures. This is not common. This is not how God designed their bodies to be. And we want to be able to get to the root cause of that. And this is where chiropractic, acupuncture, functional medicine, all of those things can make a huge difference in your child and in their health. And you can find out more at drkimtran.com. But one of the biggest struggles that I'm hearing from parents is, well, my child, they're just so anxious. They just don't have the attention. And some of the things, or they're saying they have ADHD, they're running on and they're hitting people. I had a child that I met at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden Art Fair that we were also sponsoring. And he came up, and just like any child that comes up, we have our spines out. So it's not uncommon for kids to come up and ask questions. And I love it. I love when kids feel free to ask questions about what we do. And it invites an opening for a lot of things. But what happened was, as I was trying to answer his questions, this 7-year-old child swings out and almost hits me. And I was like, whoa, hold up. And his father didn't correct him right away. And then I see this child start hitting himself and was pulling his hair. And I want you to understand, these are not normal things. This is telling you that your child's nervous system is overstimulated. It is just over the top. And this is where chiropractic is so important, because when a nervous system is in dysfunction, that means either things are overworking over something, or they're underregulated. So there needs to be a balance. And I told this father, number one, you need to bring your child in, because your child needs help. His nervous system, his brain is on fire. This is why he's having a hard time controlling his emotions. This is why he's having problems with regulation. And that's why he's trying to hurt himself, because his body is in some dysfunction. Now, if you have a child that's in this state, I want you to understand, this is what we deal with. This is how we help children to heal, is that they need adjustments in order to calm down their bodies. They need pressure taken off their brainstem, their spinal cord, and nerves through safe and gentle adjustments in order to calm and regulate their system. Because what it's telling you is, when they're having angry outbursts, when they're having problems concentrating, or they're having loads of anxiety, it's just their bodies are overstimulated and they need help calming down. Now, secondly, we have to cut down technology use as a family. And this is not just for your kids, but as a family. And this is so important, because many times children are on so much technology. They're overstimulated. Their brains are not meant to handle those iPads, the phones that you're giving your child. They're not meant to handle them at the rate that you're giving them. Their brains haven't been fully developed. So if you are giving your child an iPad or a phone before the age of 5, their brains cannot handle that. Now, I know sometimes it seems easy, because you're like, okay, well, let me go give that to them. The difference between when we had TV before is everything was much more slow going. Now you have technology that are showing reels and TikToks that stimulate their brain and give them this dopamine rush that's like boom, 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 boom. It is like them on cocaine or drugs, and they're just overstimulated, and that they have to suddenly need more time on it or else. And you know that they're addicted because if you try to take away that phone or iPad, they have a traumatic breakdown, and you know that happens. So if you want to change that, here's what I'd recommend. Limit technology use to about an hour for the whole week. And this is important. You sometimes will want to watch a lot of things in the background. I had another family that was telling me, well, my husband loves to have the TV on in the background over and over again. Well, their oldest daughter has been diagnosed with ADHD. And I said, their daughter is getting too overstimulated. Their brains need time off. Like, we need periods of quiet. And this is important. They need areas of quiet to think and to develop the creative part of their brain. But if they're constantly consuming, and even if it's running in the background, it is affecting their brain. And so once they actually turned off the TV background noise, they limited the time, they actually found that their children could concentrate better, that they had less anxiety, less ADHD symptoms that were showing. It was interesting because children are actually programmed, right? If you think about this, from the time that they're born, they're made to move. They want to move. It's just, if we have this lifestyle that it's not catered to them moving, they then outtrain it. And now they've learned to become lazy. They've learned to sit around. They've learned to watch TV all the time. But if you think about that, that's not how God created them. He created them to start moving right away. And it actually becomes a problem when they don't move right away. So think about that. What if the one thing that is affecting even your own focus and concentration is having too much time on your phone, on technology, watching TV? And I'm going to bet you that if you change the amount of time that you are on your phone, on technology, and even with your own family, you will just see a distinct difference in your mood. You'll actually be happier. You'll have less anxiety, depression. You'll have less bouts of angry outbursts. And you will see a massive change with each and every person in your family. Now, there is a little bit of a withdrawal period, and that's an important thing to know. But as you start to change over and transform, you'll find that everyone is able to focus and heal so much more. And if you are a parent out there that is struggling with your kids and you're seeing that they're clumsy, that they're having digestive problems, that they're having breathing problems, that the doctors are telling them they need to be on a bunch of medications, or perhaps they're a 12-year-old child that is still bedwetting. This is something that chiropractic can help. So as we go through and adjust your children and adjust you end up with better focus, better concentration, bedwetting goes away, and they can be a healthy, happy child. And that's what we want to see for each and every one of your families. If you're looking for help, reach out at drkimtran.com. That's drkimtran.com. And you can find me at Minnesota Family Chiropractic, located in Richfield off 494 and 35W. Find out more at 612-545-5672.
Thanks for listening to the Align and Abide podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.